Welcome back, folks, to another episode of Free to Prowl. If you guys don't know, I'm Adam, and I love bringing you guys on our outdoor adventures. A little bit different video. We're going to do more tips, tactics, how-tos in relation to the Laker video. I want to do more of these videos, create some beneficial content for you, as well as kind of our quality videos, based on our adventures. But this is just going to be the nitty-gritty. We're going to be sitting and talking about what went on. I'm going to start calling these series in line with the freedom of information, and this one's going to be about breaking down my Laker video and how I caught that fish, and kind of maybe some how-tos for you guys if you want to get out there and do the same thing. So, and this is all based kind of on a lot of questions I've been getting through some of our social media stuff and the video in general. Just people asking how to get out there and make it happen here in Wisconsin. Obviously, we have kind of limited opportunities, or more limited opportunities compared to other states or even Canada. But we have Lakers, and they're able to be fished through the ice. So I'm going to grab my rods, reels, and some of the baits, and we're going to head inside and sit down at the desk and just kind of break things down, talk about it, and hopefully you guys can learn along the way and maybe get after some Lakers yourselves. We'll catch you indoors. Before we get started here, I just want to make mention of two things. A, if you guys are new here, please hit that subscribe button. It's right down there. Just click it. Tap, 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 tap. Your support goes a long way for us, and we greatly appreciate it. We love bringing you guys on our adventures, exploring freedom outdoors, teaching you along the way, and just having fun on our public lands, public access, public waters. So hit that subscribe button. The other thing, this video is in relation to the Laker video. So if you haven't watched that, I'll put a link right here for you. Go watch that first, and then you can come back and watch this video. We'll be right here, and you guys can kind of see how we break things down and maybe learn from watching that first and then watching this video. Otherwise, if you don't want to, let's just dive right into it. So here in Wisconsin, I think one of the best ways to try and learn the sport of trout fishing through the ice is hit up some of these stock lakes, like Devil's Lake is a prime example. We have another video on that. It kind of highlights my first attempt at trying to chase trout. And I think it's a great way to learn how to fish these fish. And the reason is they're different than panfish and walleyes. They don't necessarily want that bait right in their face. A finicky walleye or a finicky panfish is typically going to want you to slowly move that bait away from them, or like big gills might want it stuffed in their face, no movement whatsoever, dead stick. They're just bouncing on the spot, right? And the thing with trout is, especially getting their attention, but also trying to force them to bite when they're kind of not wanting to immediately commit, is getting aggressive with them. Getting really aggressive with them. And although I did not catch my Laker that way, I caught some big browns that way, I caught some other trout that way. Getting aggressive with them, making them chase, and they want to commit. These fish are built, they are predator fish, they're built to attack. Their tongue has teeth on it, their mouth is loaded with teeth. They're just a very aggressive fish, and they like the chase. So until you get confidence chasing those fish on a lake like Devil's Lake that has high abundance of catchable fish and keepable fish, the bite is pretty straightforward. The location's pretty straightforward. As long as you put your time in and commit to fishing throughout the day, you can go out there and kind of learn the game. That's one of I think, the best ways to get out there. And you're going to get addicted to it, and then you're going to want to go chase Lakers. That's the gist of it. I know that might not be the right way to start for some people, but you can find various other stock lake trout lakes by looking at your Wisconsin stocking reports. Just Google Wisconsin trout stocking. You can figure it out. But that would be my suggestion to everybody, to go try fishing like Devil's Lake or other stock lakes for trout. Give it a whirl. Figure out what you need. Figure out the baits. Figure out how to fish them. And then after that, you can make the jump to go try and chase Lakers. If not, we'll get into Lakers. The next thing would be, where are you going to go to catch Lakers? One of the best places to start is the trout regulations. Yes, there's a specific set of regulations for trout fishing in Wisconsin. Pull that up, DNR website, or you can get it printed out in lots of sports stores, but it is a pamphlet. It's bigger than the normal fishing guides. It's about this big, has a trout on the front of it. I think this year was a brown trout. Grab that. One of the first pages, I think it's one of the third or fourth pages, has a box on the right side of the page that is inland trout, lake trout. It specifically says inland lake trout. Look on there, see what lakes are open for catch and release or catch and keep seasons during ice fishing. Seasons can get kind of goofy. The seasons don't open until usually the first Saturday in January, and then they close, I think, middle of spring for whatever reason. But that's one of the best places to start to figure out where to go. Fortunately, in Wisconsin, we have a very limited number of lake trout lakes. It is what it is. But if you want to try and catch lake trout in Wisconsin without having to leave the state, that's one of the best spots to look. I picked the lake that I was on based on that list, and I picked the smallest lake out there. It's just what I thought I had confidence in, what I could kind of dissect. There are bigger and probably better lakes out there, but I picked the one that I could dissect, and that ended up being one of the smaller lakes on the list. And that just plays into kind of trying to be successful, right? Don't always got to go to the biggest lake. Maybe you want to catch different quality fish. They're out there. But if you're trying to get your feet wet, pick a smaller lake, maybe something that has better reports on it, or something you may have some knowledge on, or your buddy has some knowledge on. Any of that helps. For me, I picked the smaller one of the lakes on there, that list that I know was frozen. January 1st, went out there, we made her happen. So once you figure out the lake you're going to, and maybe you've gained some experience fishing trout through the ice elsewhere, where are you going to fish on this lake you're on? The lake I chose was a basin lake, right? No real points, no real structure, no bars. It just dropped off deep into a basin, and that was it. So, pretty featureless lake. And I feel on a featureless lake, like Devil's Lake and like the lake I fished and caught my laker on, go to the bottom of the break. That's one of the first places to start. I unfortunately did not start there. I started out deeper, jumped around, and then actually talking to that gentleman in the video, and we kind of talked back and forth of what they were seeing. They ended up catching the only other fish that day earlier in the day. I hadn't marked anything, and we were just kind of talking. I said, Adam, use what you learned and get to the bottom of that break, right? As you can see by this aerial, I was tight to shore. I mean, basically 20 yards from the bank. And that's because these lakes drop off so steep, and you can literally just get at the bottom of that break or maybe a couple feet outside of it. And that's what I feel those fish are doing, is they're just running that edge because that's the only structure there really is. They can check the rocks, they can do whatever, but I think that's a good spot to start on certain areas or certain lakes that have less structure. Obviously, you can check all your other structure if you're on a big lake that has a lot of other structure. But don't underestimate the bottom of the break. Main break, bottom of the break, go for it. It'll produce. Let's get into the nuts and bolts. Tackle. I caught that fish on a 42-inch, medium-heavy, elite, Fenwick Elite Ice Tech rod. They're pretty reasonable rods. I actually picked this one up when I was chasing trout in Chequamegon Bay at the local store. It's a great rod. They're affordable. You can find them pretty much anywhere, and they make them from 20 inches up to, I think this is their longest at 42, but check them out. I think this rod was $40. Nothing crazy, has a good backbone, has a good tip to fight those fish and keep them pinned, and it's just a great way to start. All right, reel. I just take off of my spinning gear for catching smallmouth, so I know these things have good drag, right? Just took a Mach 2 Blues speed spin, put it on here, and that's it. And it's pretty simple. I don't go and buy specific ice fishing rods. You're fishing in a shanty, and even if you are out in the cold, these things work. Just treat them, treat them good. Don't be getting them all wet. Any reel can freeze basically if you don't treat it right. But these things work, and I know they have good drags. I caught some browns off this thing. I've caught some sturgeon off similar reels, and now I've caught a laker on it. So bigger predator fish, don't be afraid to use your open water stuff. On this rod, I have 20-pound Suffix 832 high vis line because that's what was on here. But I run a fluorocarbon leader on everything. So this is a 10-pound Seagar. I think it's Invisex or Abrazex, one of the two. I'm thinking it's Invisex, but just a fluorocarbon 10-pound leader. And I figured that would give me enough abrasion resistance, give me some give, right, beyond that braided line, be able to handle the trout. And then obviously you have the invisible capabilities of fluorocarbon leader. So we figured out our rod and reel combo. We know what we're going to use there. The next up is baits, right? What are we going to use for baits? So good starting point, tube jigs. If you watch a lot of Laker videos, they talk a lot about tube jigs. I tried throwing one that day, or dropping one, I guess. We're not really casting out there, but tried using one and didn't get any marks on it. But I'm not going to say that it wouldn't work or that fish wouldn't bit it. But just a standard bass fishing tube with a bullet head in it or a tube head in it and a stout hook, you're good to go. Something simple to start with. You can pull it from your bass gear if you're a bass fisherman, but that's a good place to start. Next up is spoons. We have gold and silver frostbite spoon. Ended up catching my browns on Chequamegon Bay on this, so I used this a lot that day. It's pretty small. I don't know what the weight is on it. I guess it's not that small, but it's a good bait. It's got a good fall rate, and that little centerpiece is an attractor. But that didn't yield anything, so I ended up. This is a bait I actually caught my fish on. Blue and silver Castmaster spoon. So you don't have any of these in your box. They're pretty standard. You can get them about anywhere. But it's just silver on the back, blue and silver on the front. It's a little heavier. I think this is like a 5/8 ounce or maybe a ½ ounce. But I went to a little bigger spoon. I wanted that aggressive fall to try and attract something towards the end of the day, and it ended up working. I don't know. It could have not worked for me, right? Maybe it would have called one in and they went to bitten it, and I would have had to go to a smaller spoon. But it's just a color combo that I have confidence in, a spoon that I have confidence in, and ended up working. But all my spoons, and even like rattle baits when I fish those, I tip with a minnow head or some kind of meat. I think that's key. I think obviously they have the flash and the fall that's attracting to them, but they like keying in on that scent and that meat. I think it just helps. So try spoons, those work. The other thing is rattle baits can work as well. Smaller ones, bigger ones. Rattle baits work great on Devil's Lake for smaller trout. Ended up not calling anything in with them, but they do have a rattle in them. So that is suggests their name, but that rattle can call them in just as much as the sight can too. Man, those hooks are sticky. But yeah, rattle baits work as well. Other standard baits could be as simple as tipping a hook, putting a dead stick out there, or an automatic hook setter with a minnow on it or a shiner. That could work. Trout can be kind of funny as far as sucking baits in and not immediately taking them. So play around with that if you want to give that a try. But your other standard walleye baits, bigger rattle baits, spoons, jig and wraps will work, glide baits, all that typical walleye stuff, minus maybe the tube jigs, you can kind of transfer over to lake trout. So you don't got to go spending crazy amounts of money. You can pretty much do it with what you got in your box, as long as you got some bigger spoons and maybe some bigger rattle baits and some of these if you're a bass fisherman. Well, that's kind of the gist of how we made this all happen, right? It's just getting out there and doing it, making it happen. It's a challenge, yes, it can be a challenge, but it's a rewarding challenge. I've grown to love these predator fish. Trout have become one of my favorite species to chase, next to probably sturgeon, which hopefully we got some footage coming here shortly for that. That's our plan. Fingers crossed we can get on one of those dinosaurs. But go check out our other trout videos. You guys can see how these fish chase. Hopefully you can learn some stuff from them. Maybe it'll get you the itch and you'll want to get out there and do this. It's an awesome mentality being free to prowl, right? We can get out there and we can chase different species. We don't just got to hone in on one thing because we have access to multiple lakes, multiple bodies of water, a lot of it publicly accessible, and that's an awesome premise. So don't be afraid to get out there, try something new. Hopefully you guys can learn something from our videos. If so, please be sure to hit that subscribe button. Like I said, it goes a long way, and then you guys are up to date on when we do all of our new content. Social medias are down below. We do a lot of different stuff on our social medias, primarily our Instagram. That's kind of our bread and butter. So if you want quick tips, recipes, other content, it's on our social medias. Please be sure to follow the links below, follow those, and get some more free to prowl content on a daily basis. But as always, don't forget, you are free to prowl, and be sure to thank a vet for their service. We'll catch you on the next one.